Hello traders, welcome to your daily market update for Tuesday the 2nd of June. Overnight we've seen the US dollar continue its strength and we had some better than expected data that continued to push it higher, and we've seen moves lower from the Great British Pound and the Euro. The Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, just about all currency pairs were weaker against the US dollar overnight. So that's kick-starting the tone of the month. And now we are moving into the second day. The focus shifted to the Australian dollar, and as you can see, we had better than expected account current balance. We also had better than expected net exports, average cash earnings, and the interest rate was left on hold. The statement was somewhat neutral, and that offered some support to the Australian dollar, and looks like it will continue to do so throughout the next few trading sessions. Moving into the European session, we do have a host of data coming through as we continue to do so this week. And you'll notice that we have some German unemployment. Then we move through into some pound data, construction PMI, retail sales coming out of the Hong Kong. Moving into CPI for Europe, and the market will be looking at that. If we do get an uptick in that, we could see some support for the for the euro dollar. And finally, moving into the US session, we have manufacturing PMIs, factory orders, and we have sales of cars, vehicles, and of the like. So we do have a host of data coming out you need to keep an eye on, and let's go and have a look at the US dollar. The US dollar, you'll note, has had a bounce kick-starting the new month and the new week, and we have just come off that a little bit starting today's Asian session as a result of the Australian data, but we'll see whether the US dollar can hold above this support level here that it bounced off towards the end of the month at 96. And if it does continue higher, we'll be looking for the next levels of resistance, kick-starting in from just above 98, and then of course this pretty weak downtrend. But for now, momentum is definitely on the US dollar bull side. We just need to continue to see data to support this. If we don't see data to support it, we could see some profit taking on the US dollar, just as the doubts come back in. As we've seen in the past, it doesn't take long for the market to start doubting a potential interest rate rise, even though we've heard the statement. So that's creating a little bit of short-term volatility, and we need to keep on top of that. Let's go and have a quick look at the charts, and you can see that the New Zealand dollar has broke through the multi-month lows here, but then we are having a little bit of a bounce. The bounce right now is on the back of the Australian dollar, just pulling the New Zealand higher. We need to keep an eye on the historical support becoming resistance. There's going to need to be a much larger move to the upside before we even consider a new bullish trend. So for now, the daily chart is definitely in a bearish trend, and we need to keep that in mind with any bounces potentially running into some resistance zones. The Australian dollar, on the other hand, was unable to break through the lows that we've seen in March and April, and the tone of that statement is quite bullish, and it's making a run towards 77 cents. And I think that 77.3.4 cents is going to be a resistance level we need to watch, and then after that it'll be up to around the 78 cent region. So we are getting a bounce now for the Australian dollar. Whether this turns into a new trend is going to be subject to the US dollar, as the Australian RBA moves into a neutral stance based on the improving data that we've seen. The Great British Pound continued to fall quite heavily. It was probably one of the larger underperformers as fears of a Brexit continue to haunt the pair. However, I think that we will see some more weakness carry through, but it's going to be subject once again to the data we have coming out tonight and the US dollar index. It has had quite a series of falls. I think it's the 7th session in a row, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to look for a bounce. And any bounce that we do get might run into resistance at $1.54. So I'll have to keep an eye out for that resistance level just here. The euro versus the US dollar, as you can see, was off a little bit yesterday on the back of the strength of the US dollar, but it's now having a little bit of a bounce. We are trapped between at 110 and 19. We need to see a breakout of either direction before we can be convinced. There is a lot of resistance between $1.10, $1.10.50, and it would need to push right through this before I'm convinced that we are going to start a bullish trend here on the euro. The euro data of late has been quite good, so any weakness in the US dollar will definitely be reflected in the euro being supported. US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, we've seen a very nice bounce here on the US dollar last night, and that continued to carry through in the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar. We are holding up above $1.24. That does act as short-term support, but we do have a series of resistance levels that it needs to break through to really push higher. $1.26.6, $1.26.7 is going to be my next major resistance level before we start to look for the next. So it does have some headwinds. However, right now the US dollar strength is definitely helping this pair. Once again, keep an eye on oil prices and the US dollar index. If we do get a short-term pullback, it should be reflected in this pair. US dollar versus the Japanese yen was the star performer. As you can see, it kick-started the month in stellar fashion with a big breakout and ran right up to 125. Now having a little bit of a pullback, and we'll see whether the data can support further gains here. If I zoom out for you on a monthly chart, you can see that it has taken out the highs of 2007. And if I zoom out for you, the market really needs to just to clear this resistance level through here before it can then make a run up to the next major resistance level at $1.35. The market is eyeing off 130, but we will see exactly if we stall around this region. If we do stall around this region, we could have a sizable pullback. It's going to come into the US dollar and the US dollar story to see exactly how far that will pull back. All right, that's it from me. Keep an eye out on the data. We have a lot of it this week. And don't forget, we do have a Euro group meeting. So there has been a meeting called, and that's to do with the announcements with Greece. And the markets will be highly speculative about exactly what's going to come of that meeting. So that could push around the euro, and any signs of any sort of deal or positive progress could definitely offer some support to the euro dollar. So keep that in mind moving forward, and hopefully you trade well. I'll be back again tomorrow, so I'll talk to you then.